Hey there, Playmakers. Welcome to the very first episode of the Playmaker podcast. I'm so excited for today because I'm going to walk through my journey with y'all and share my story and what's been going on in my life. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I'm from a small town in Kentucky and I love my hometown. I grew up on a family farm with my family, my parents, and I have two younger sisters. And our two dogs, Lucy and Piper. And I grew up with my grandparents next door and my aunts and uncles and cousins right here with us. So big family, very close family, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So not only did we grow up living together, but my sisters and cousins and I also went to school together, carpooled. My Mimi, our grandmother that lives next to us, she had a minivan that she picked us up in, and it was called the Mimi Mobile, and that was fun every afternoon with her. And we also grew up going to church together. My uncle, Stephen, was the pastor at our church, and so we did everything together, and it was awesome. When I was 6 years old, I came to the realization that I needed a savior, and I became a Christian. In my childhood bedroom, I got to pray with my mom, walk through the plan of salvation, which basically was recognizing I'm a sinner and needed someone to save me, and that Jesus was the only way because he lived a perfect life and was the ultimate sacrifice for me. And that was super special. My uncle was able to baptize me. My whole family was there for that. It was awesome, and clearly I remember it to this day. It was the most important decision I've ever made. Now, growing up, we all played basketball. My dad played growing up, my uncles played, my granddad played, like everyone loves basketball. So when we were all old enough to hold a ball, we didn't really have an option. We were going to play basketball. Plus, being from Kentucky, we are in a basketball state. So from the time I was 3 years old, I had a ball in my hand and I loved it. When it came time to do upward tryouts, you could either play basketball or you could be a cheerleader. And my dad always said, why would you want to stand on the sideline cheering for everyone when you could be the one on the court giving them something to cheer about? So it was like a no-brainer. I was going to be out there playing ball. And if you know me at all, I'm not graceful enough to be a cheerleader anyway. So basketball worked out perfectly. So we grew up playing together. My dad coached me. My uncles got to coach my sisters and my cousins. And we loved it. I ended up loving basketball so much and training so hard that I started to find my identity in that. And I didn't even realize that until I got older. And I was a junior in high school and I was in a car wreck. I was actually headed to basketball practice, and it was October and there were leaves on the ground and it was raining, and so the water and the oil from the leaves made the road very slick. And I was about a mile from my house going around a bend on a narrow country road, and I fishtailed. Now my teammate was in the car with me. She was our point guard and she was short. And so as we fishtailed and end up just sliding perpendicular down the road, another vehicle and another truck, so there was a 3-car collision. We all got mangled up and spun a lot, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know we finally crashed into the guardrail. Now, just disclaimer, I was not speeding during this. Clearly, if I fishtail, I was going too fast for the road conditions, but I was actually going 15 miles per hour below what the speed limit was. But nonetheless, fishtailed, and that boom happened. So when the airbags deployed, my teammate was so small that the airbag came and hit her in the face and just like pressed her against the headrest, and she didn't move. I am so tall, it hit my chest and I was a bobblehead. So then I hit the headrest and the window and the windshield. Now, let's just backtrack. Growing up playing basketball, I had already had 5 concussions before this. And so it wasn't good for my head to get hit again. So As soon as we crawl out of my car, I call my dad and I tell him, hey, I was just in a wreck. I'm okay, but I need you to come get me and take me to basketball practice. And he was like, whoa, what? You were in a wreck? I don't think you're going to practice today. And I was like, Dad, if I don't go to practice, if I miss practice, I'm going to have to run. If I'm late, I'm going to have to run. And I don't want to have to run. So I need you to come get me to practice. And he was like, Mags, you're not going to practice today. So I get in the ambulance with my teammate and another lady that was involved in the accident, and we head to the hospital. And I'm running on adrenaline. I'm thinking my car's fine. I'm thinking I'm fine. Nothing hurts until we're almost to the hospital. And the adrenaline's wore off. And I started to realize, whoa, my head hurts. And it hurts really bad. My dad met us there. And when we got to the hospital, and I explained to my dad, my head does not feel right. Like, it hurts very bad. They went ahead and ran some scans on my head to see if there was any bleeding, and there was not. So they assumed that everything was fine. It was just a bump, got hit, but you're fine, go home. Now, on the way home, we called my mom, who had flown out that morning to go to Texas for a conference. So, of course, she's hysterical when she hears about this. And we come on home, and when we got back to my house, inside my family room was my whole family, my sisters, my aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandparents, and they had balloons and cake and presents because it was also my birthday. So that was my 17th birthday. Clearly one I will never forget. Now, I didn't really understand what was going to happen in the days to come. I stayed home. I couldn't stand to be in the light. Loud noises also bothered me. And so I literally just stayed hidden in the dark for that week. When my mom got home from her trip, she quickly realized something's not right. Now, I don't have a lot of memory from that year, but she said that it was as if the lights were on, but no one was home. She would say something to me, and it was like a blank body just staring back at her and not really able to respond fully. We went to a couple different doctors who all looked at the scans and saw my brain was not bleeding, so it's just a concussion, we can't do anything. But my mom had that mother's intuition and knew, no, something's not right. So we ended up meeting a neurologist in Louisville, and as soon as we met him and he looked at my scans and just speaking with me, he was ready to admit me instantly. This is 2 weeks after my wreck. Well, we're not prepared to stay. I was really not prepared to stay. And although my cognitive processing function was very low, I'm still Kimberly Hudson's daughter. And I told him, I don't have my clothes and everything packed. I can't stay today. I'll have to come back tomorrow. And my neurologist and dad were confused and explained to me that my dad could go home or my mom could pack my bag and they'd come meet me, but I needed to go ahead and be admitted into the hospital there so they could get this concoction of IV stuff start flowing through my body because there was so much swelling in my brain. But I made sure they knew that I needed to pack my own bag and we could come back tomorrow. It had already been 2 weeks. What was another few hours going to do? And I won, which is absolutely crazy looking back on that. So we come back, and for 4 or 5 days I was admitted into this hospital where they ran a concoction of different IV fluids to really try to suppress the swelling that was in my brain. After that time was over, I went home and was homebound but not doing any school because when you have a head injury, you can't do anything to stimulate your brain. Like, that's the only way it'll heal. So that meant no phone, no TV, no reading, like not even really lights. Like, my processing speed was so slow. I wasn't thinking clearly at all. So I couldn't like bake, and I love to bake. I couldn't do that. I got needlepoint to try to do that. Well, that was like really focusing, trying to do that. So, and that just like instant migraine, couldn't. So literally I sat in pure darkness and quiet for about 2 months. During that time, my Mimi would come to my house, and while my parents were at work, and would take me to the mall about twice a week and just make me go walk laps, for the pure fact that I needed to be around people. And so I would go just like all the other old ladies out there doing their laps, in the morning hours of the mall being open, with my sunglasses on and with my Mimi, and we'd just go walk laps. And then that would wear me out. I'd go home and sleep the rest of the day, and that was pretty much my whole day. Now, I was blessed that I did have the best friends that would come both from my team and our boys basketball team, that would come and sit with me after practice and just hang out with me. Because it wasn't like we could go out and do anything. I wasn't leaving my house other than to go walk the mall with my Mimi. So they would come and just visit me, which was awesome. Now, as it finally came time to start the conversation about should Maggie go back to school, the obvious answer from a cognitive standpoint was no. I needed to stay home and be homebound. My processing speed had dropped to 3%, which is unheard of. Like, even a stroke patient doesn't get that low, which I didn't know what that meant then. I truly don't even fully understand what it means now. All I know is, like, when someone said something to me, it took me a long time to figure out, were they talking to me? What did they say? What did it mean? Am I supposed to respond? How do I respond? Now let's formulate the words. Now let's make them go together to make sense. Which, even when I would formulate words and talk, they didn't typically make sense. And because my speech was not good. And it was just wild. But although it was not best for me from a cognitive standpoint to go back, because I was so much slower than my peers because of the brain damage, from an emotional standpoint, my neurologist strongly emphasized the importance of me going back just to see people, because being at home and being isolated was hard. I am an Enneagram 7. I am very extroverted. I am energized by people. And so staying home in the isolated darkness was awful. I mean, it was awful. So I started going back to school for half days. And literally while I was there, did not do any schoolwork. That wasn't the purpose of me even being there. The purpose was for me to see my friends, see my teachers, and just try to have a normal conversation. The second semester coming back, I was paired with the boys basketball coach at the time at my high school. His name's Ryan Wilson, and he was a learning and behavioral disorders teacher. And so instead of going to all my AP classes and, being in the normal classroom, bless his heart, he was stuck with me, and I went to his classroom and stayed with him the entire day. Now, I would get breaks where I was allowed to go step foot in my actual classes for the social aspect of seeing my friends and saying hi to my teachers, but I didn't sit through the actual classes because I couldn't comprehend the information. I couldn't add anything. The bright lights hurt my head, and high school, it was loud, and I couldn't stand the loud noise for very long. So I would go, do my social thing, emotionally heal every day with that, getting 1% better, and then I'd go back to Coach Wilson's classroom, and he and I would work on some kind of assignments that we would have. I was so slow, and he had to be so patient, and we really bonded over that. Now, I also already had a relationship with him before this wreck, which was awesome because it made it easier for me coming back. But he and another coach had allowed me to come and train with the boys team during the off season while I was still able to play basketball. So I had already worked with them. They had already coached me, and I knew them from that. And so that really helped me feel comfortable when I was just stuck with them all day long. So as we went on and we get into the heart of the basketball season, I'm asking, like I've gone through concussion protocol 5 times before this. So I'm like, all right, when am I going to get to play ball again? Like I'm sitting on the sideline. I'm tired of sitting on the sideline. When do I get to play ball? And everyone kept avoiding the question. Finally, one day when I was at my neurologist's office, I had to go every 3 weeks to get about 100 injections in my head from above my eyebrows, in my forehead, in the cranial and scalp area down to the back of my head and neck and shoulders. I would get anywhere from 100 to 125 injections every 3 weeks. It was basically Novocaine for my brain to help with those nerve blockers was basically what it was. So we're there one day and I'm tired of everyone avoiding it. And I'm like asking my neurologist, when am I going to get to play ball again? Like just shoot straight with me. When do I get to play? And this is months after my wreck. And he took a deep breath and said, Maggie, your brain's just not healing like it should. I'm sorry, but you're never going to play basketball again. And I didn't understand that, and I definitely didn't accept it at the time because my game plan was to finish playing high school ball, get recruited, go to a small school to play basketball, become a special education teacher, come back to my hometown, teach, and be a basketball coach. Like that's what I wanted. And so when he said that, I clearly really struggled, and my world was just a whole bunch of what now? What do I do now? So the NCAA rule on concussions is 7 concussions and you're done. You don't get to play your sport again because your brain is too sensitive and clearly too important to one more hit. Who knows what could happen. Now, a lot of doctors will say 1 concussion is too much, but at the time that was the protocol 7. So this was technically number 6, but because of the damage that had been done previously to my brain and then how big of a hit it took during this car wreck, there was no telling what a 7th hit would have done, which is another reason my neurologist said no more. So I go back to my hometown, and that night we had the first round of the district tournament, and I'm sitting on the bench knowing I'll never step foot on a court again and wear my team name across my chest. And no one knew yet. My parents knew, my sisters knew, my family knew, but my teammates, my coach, our boys team, who I was very close with, and their coaches, none of my friends knew. So I'm just sitting there knowing I could be out there helping my team, but instead knowing I will never get my senior night with them. I will never shoot another free throw as a player on this team. I will never play ball again. So clearly I'm biting my tongue and biting the inside of my cheeks and just squeezing my hands, trying not to cry through this whole game. And I'm trying to be positive and support my team the best that I could because clearly my role had definitely shifted. We lost that game, and I went back in the stands, and of course that meant our season was over. So we're crying in the locker room. I fall apart, which didn't seem weird because the season was over and everyone was crying. And especially knowing that our seniors at the time would never play again. I'd never have a chance to play with them. And so I lose it. Well, the thing was, once I started crying, everyone else is starting to like dry it up and like get ready to go back out and like see our families and friends. I couldn't stop crying. I mean, once I started, it was just let loose. So I make it out to the stands where my family is sitting, hysterically sobbing. And Coach Wilson is one of the other coaches, and some of the guys on the boys team came over and were like, Mags, it's okay, you got next season. And I can't even look at them because I just wanted to yell, you don't understand. I don't. Like, this was it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. That next week, I opened up to Coach Wilson and I told him about the news that my neurologist had given me and about how my basketball career was over. And of course, he gave me his condolences and we kind of moved on. After their season ended, he asked me what I was going to do moving forward the next year and what my role was going to look like on the team. And honestly, after I was able to tell my team that what the neurologist had said, that I wouldn't play ball again, my grade fell apart. We didn't have every single person in my year, all of our juniors who are going to be our rising seniors for the next basketball season ended up quitting, which I hated too, but my team basically crumbled after I was no longer able to be a part of a team in that way. And so I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be a part of the girls' team. I felt so far removed that I didn't really see it possible, and it was hard to be in the gym with them knowing I could help them, but I couldn't. So Coach Wilson asked me if I wanted to be a part of their team. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, come and be our manager. And humble Maggie Hudson was like, no. I'm not going to be your water girl. Like, I am a basketball player. I'm not a water girl. I'm not going to come and bring your players cups of water or Gatorade or whatever, bring them a towel when they're hot and sweaty. No. I play ball. I don't. No. And he was like, I think you are. Well, sure enough, I became the manager for our boys team my senior year. And I learned so much about the game of basketball and the coaching side of basketball that year. I got to really just see all the back work that high school coaches do and learn about that prep and getting film from other coaches and, confirming that we have the referees and getting the team meals, designing uniforms, making sure the guys get the number they want, like all those things. And yes, getting the boys water. I did that too. And I loved it. It was a different role than I had ever pictured for my senior year, but it felt so good to be a part of a team again that I didn't even care. And those guys really rallied around me through my whole journey my junior year with my rec and did the same thing my senior year. I got to have a senior night, which was not the way I ever anticipated, but they would have it no other way. And I'm just so thankful for that whole crew. They were the best. So I call my summer coach and tell him, he knows about my car wreck, and I tell him that I'm not going to get to play ball again. And he says, okay, well, where are you going to go to school? Well, college wasn't really even on the forefront of my mind because we weren't sure if I was going to be able to handle college because of how slow my cognitive processing was at the time. But we also knew that because I was going to see my neurologist for these injections for my migraines every 3 weeks, that I had to be close to home. I couldn't go far away. So the logical idea, if I got to go to college, it was going to be the University of Kentucky. And he was like, well, great. I'm really good friends with one of the coaches there. I'll connect y'all and see if you can be a part of their team. And I was like, be a part of their team? Well, I can't play ball anymore, nor was I ever going to be good enough to play at UK. And he was like, no, I know, but you can still be a part of the team. And I was confused, but he connected me with Coach Lynn Dunn, who was awesome, and we emailed back and forth during my senior year of high school, and she said, Maggie, when you get to campus, come see me. I'd love to meet you. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm sure you would, thinking she's going to forget about me and it's not going to be worth my time anyway. So the summer before I started at UK, my family was at the beach in Charleston, and it was about 6 o'clock at night. And so at that time, everyone's in getting ready, about to go to dinner or already at dinner, whatever. So it's our family, and then there's this one other family outside on the beach that we didn't know. And this boy came up to me who was my age. Now, I told y'all, my heart is special ed. My whole game plan was to become a special ed teacher and go on to coach, right? So this boy my age who has Down syndrome comes up to me and says, hey, do you want to play kickball with me? And I was like, yes, that sounds so fun. So he rallied his family together and I rallied mine together, and we played this big game of kickball, and we had so much fun. Well, after the game was over, all the kiddos went and ran and jumped in the ocean and cooled off, and I stayed back and was talking to his mom. Now, I didn't recognize her at the time because, she's in a hat and sunglasses and beach stuff. But we started talking and exchanging stories, and she told me a little bit about what she did. Well, her name is Debbie Antonelli, and she is the top-rated women's basketball sports analyst. And I looked her up, and I was like, holy cow, I know her. I've watched her on TV so many times. And so we got to see them throughout the week, the rest of that week, and we exchanged contact information. And she had asked me, where are you going to go to school? UK. She was like, I'm really good friends with the head coach there, Coach Matthew Mitchell. I'd love to connect y'all. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with them? I can't play ball. What are they going to use me for? And just not real, truly, I didn't have the confidence to really, nor did I know any of the positions that would be available to be able to be a part of this team. And she looked at me, and I'll never forget this. She said, Maggie, they need you. They just don't know it yet. And I was like, they need me? What do they need me for? So she tells me, when you get to campus, you need to go see him. I'll let him know to be expecting you. So this is the second time I've had connections with two of the coaches who are telling me to come see them. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's a good idea, if it's going to be worth my time at all. Well, I start my freshman year, and I walk out of my classroom building one day and see that I have a text message from a number that I didn't have saved in my phone. And the text message said, hey Maggie, this is head coach Matthew Mitchell at the University of Kentucky women's basketball team. I heard about your story and I would love to meet you. Do you think you have time to come by my office today? And I was like, you're joking. You've got to be kidding me. Not long after, as I'm walking to my next class or whatever, he comes zooming by me on a golf cart. And I was just like, what? So I did go meet him, of course. I was just like, okay, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do, but here we go. So I met with him and a few other people in the office, and they asked me to come the next season and be a manager for their team. And I did. I was super excited. I had a great time getting to do that. Met some really cool people, built some really cool relationships that are still really near and special to me now. It was just overall a really, really cool experience. So while UK basketball was awesome and I loved getting to learn so much about their program and build those relationships with those people, that year was one of the hardest years of my life. The year before, I had experienced some trauma that I'll hopefully open up and share with y'all soon about, but I'm not really at the point where I'm ready to yet. But I was working through all of this emotional stuff, and so the UK basketball team and all of their staff got the worst version of Maggie Hudson ever. Like, I was just not in a good headspace. Going into college already not having healthy habits because, I'm from the South and grew up eating Paula Deen food. And then you get to college where there's not that many healthy choices and eating is just a social thing anyway. I began to really be an emotional eater and just ate my feelings. I was angry at the world, and so I hate that that's the year they got of me, because although we did build awesome relationships and it was a super amazing year, they did not get the best version of me. And I had a lot of healing and self-work that I had to do in order to give everyone else in my life the best version of me. So I stepped away after my first year there, and opened up to some of them who were completely understanding and just awesome, and have been truly still check in with me and just, see how I'm doing, and that's been awesome. And the next year, as I was working on myself, I got to go back to the games and hang out with the girls afterwards and reconnect with them, and that was so much fun too. I literally adore them. So I finally decided that summer, after I've quit basketball at the end of my sophomore year, and I'm about to start my junior year of college, that summer, I finally decided no more. I have been sitting on the sideline of my own life with basketball's over. I don't get to play basketball. My workouts have had to change dramatically because I can't do all the workouts I used to be able to do because my head doesn't allow it. I've been using food as a crutch and as an emotional compensation instead of food for fuel, which is what it is. And that summer, I finally decided no more. I'm not my best self. I'm not giving anyone my best self. And I'm miserable. I'm tired of sitting on the sideline of my own life. And the words, be a playmaker, kept going through my head. Training for basketball, my coaches always encouraged me to get 1% better every day. And then as I was healing from my car wreck with cognitive therapy and physical therapy and speech therapy, and it felt pointless at times, I just kept telling myself, we're getting 1% better today. We're getting 1% better today. I've never been a super patient person. I'm the kind of person that's prays and is Lord, please give me patience and give it to me right now. You know what I mean? And so waiting for the healing from my car wreck and then emotionally moving on, it wasn't a quick process, and that drove me crazy because I wanted actionable steps and I wanted to see results immediately. But I decided that summer, I'm worth it. And I am going to be an active playmaker in my life. I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to get back on track and pivot and figure out where I want to go and start going there, because I'm tired of the way I'm living and I don't want to keep going down this path. So before I moved back into my sorority house that next fall, I had lost 22 pounds in about a month and a half. I moved into the sorority house, I lose another 30 pounds. So I'm down a little bit over 50 pounds now. And now I get to coach people every day on how to be playmakers in their lives and their health, both mentally, physically, and financially. And I love it. It is truly what I'm passionate about now. And I love just getting to hear people's stories and helping them figure out how they can quit sitting on the sidelines of their life and start moving forward. So I'm set to graduate in May with a degree in communication from the University of Kentucky. And I'm not really sure exactly what my future is going to hold, but I know I'm going to keep coaching. I'm excited to see where this podcast leads. And just, I'm excited for all of the people and the stories that we're going to be bringing in here, and really learning about different ways to be an active playmaker in our own lives so that we can get 1% better and go and conquer and reach our biggest goals. I want y'all to know that the biggest takeaway from this was, yes, I had to make the decision to be an active playmaker in my own life. But looking over the widespread, like the whole view of my story and how everything still worked out exactly how it was supposed to, even though it was not my plan at all, God was in the background working through every single step of the way. Because God is the ultimate playmaker. Whether we see Him or even hear His name or not, He is always there and He is always working. He is always fighting for us. And there were times during my car wreck, during the emotional healing I've been walking through, I didn't see it. I didn't understand. But now I can look back and see just how active that He was through this whole journey. And so I want to encourage y'all, wherever you're at in your own journey, take a second and reflect and see, where can you see the Lord fighting for you? Where has He been working in the background and being the biggest playmaker for you in your own life? So that's my story. I want to say short and sweet. I'm not sure how short that was, but that's my story. I'm so thankful for y'all who have walked through this journey with me and are continuing to walk through this journey with me as I still work to get 1% better every day.